What's up, guys? Gunn here. Happy NBA playoff basketball. Literally thought this day would never come, but here we are. Shout out to the NBA for committing to the bubble and being successful, right? A lot of other sports are trying and there's some hiccups, but NBA has set an incredible example on how to get a season in, how to get games in during this trying time. So it has created some entertainment for us, some great drama with the one game play in over the weekend. And now we have a 4-game NBA slate for FanDuel and DraftKings. In this video specifically, I'll be talking about FanDuel and my core. And by core, in the breath for this game, I'm going to be talking about my highest owned player at each position in my mass entry scripting, right? So we'll talk about those plays in just a minute. We'll let you guys know if you guys want access to my updated player pool in the RunDFS.com NBA VIP spreadsheet, also the premium Discord, the pre-lock voice chats for all sports, and of course the MLB spreadsheet and NFL in a couple of weeks. Knock on wood. You can do so with a subscription at RunDFS.com. Just go to RunDFS.com, make yourself an account, click VIP passes. If you've never ever tried it before, try a week pass. Like I said, I have over 90% recidivism rate. I mean, there's people that try it out and they like it, they stay. It's a great community, a lot of big wins. Jake 100K in NBA on Friday, wasn't it? Friday, insane hits in the last week, but Jake takes the cake with 100K. So a lot of big winners. We'd love for you guys to come be one of those winners at any bankroll level. Quarter arcades to monsters, right? Like anything and everything in between. So come be part of that. Let's jump into today's video. We have 4 games of NBA basketball, playoff basketball. Feels so good to say. We got Denver hosting the Utah Jazz. We got Toronto hosting the Nets. Boston hosting the 76ers. And then the Clippers hosting the Dallas Mavericks to close out the night. Should create a lot of great basketball. Just one total at 2:30, and that's the Clippers and Mavericks game. Should draw a lot of attention there. And let's get into that player pool. So again, in this video, I'm giving my highest, as of now, probably the guys that I'll have the highest amount of at each position. So I think there's so many great plays, and one thing we got to remember about playoff basketball is the minutes are going to be there for everyone. And my first look at FanDuel salary is super soft. 10-2 for Luka Doncic. Are you kidding me? So I think you're going to see a lot of lineups on FanDuel where you can just play whoever you want. And maybe that's by design, right? Maybe they want you to play whoever you want. So maybe don't overthink value, because I think just about everyone on this slate should kill their price point. But let's jump into it. At point guard, probably my highest owned point guard in the FanDuel lineups will be Jamal Murray. He's $6,100. I'd probably go up into the 7Ks on this slate in this matchup, considering that I'm still expecting no Will Barton and no Gary Harris. If that changes, maybe I pull back a little bit. I'd be more so concerned with Will Barton than Gary Harris. But Jamal Murray getting it done, over a point per minute right now, and just a couple games back in his return to the bubble, 39 minutes against the Utah Jazz, dropped 50 fantasy points. So I really don't see a case for me to not have, as much as I can handle, Jamal Murray at 6,100. So we're going to put him in as a core play at the point guard position. Moving on to shooting guard, the guy I like the most here, points per dollar, and will probably have the most of, is going to be Lou Williams, right? How cheap of it would it be to me, for me to come out here and say, hey guys, play Luka, play Paul George, right? Obviously, we're playing those guys, but how about Lou Williams, 5,300? The reason I like Lou, he's been kind of on the chain in the bubble, right? They're kind of putting him on a minutes restriction, waiting for him to get right. He's a scorer. He's a pure scorer on that team. So I like him in tournaments as a guy that could pop off in the highest total on the slate. And it's very likely that if that game comes down to a shootout, Lou Williams might close the game out over a guy like Patrick Beverley. And then, of course, Lou Williams has his cohort, Montrezl Harrell, back in the mix, and him and Montrezl basically have the best pick and roll in all of basketball. So love Lou Williams at 5,300. If I can get 30 minutes out of Lou Williams where they're leaning on him to score, right, early foul trouble maybe for a Paul George or a Kawhi, Lou Williams is probably their best pure scorer to begin with, but I think people sleep on his peripheral potential, especially assists. 7 assists there against the Denver Nuggets. He has potential to pay off 5,300 pretty easily, so I think he might be one of my highest owned shooting guards. Pretty much every line that I have with like Luka or a Karis LeVert or Paul George will probably be handcuffed to a Lou Williams. Obviously, I'll have some Luka LeVert, Luka Paul George lineups, especially a lot of positive correlation between playing Luka and Paul George. But I think Lou Williams is that tournament diamond in the rough down there at 5,300 because his responsibility and his opportunity should rise, and I really, really love that he has Montrezl Harrell back to work with. Moving on to the small forward position. Small forward is probably the toughest position on the day. So like I said, the idea of this video is to tell you guys who's probably going to be my highest owned player at each position. I hate to go with the highest priced guy here, but it's got to be Kawhi Leonard, right? 9,300. Going to play all the minutes his heart can handle against the Dallas Mavericks. If you've been watching the Dallas Mavericks DVP chart, kind of a flow chart, funnel defense that really opens up to opposing forwards. It's a great spot for Kawhi. He's going to do a little bit of everything. This is what he was. This is why he signed to the Clippers for this moment, this playoff game. So I think 38 minutes of Kawhi Leonard can net us 50-plus fantasy points. But on FanDuel, looking at the small forward options, Kawhi Leonard could have 40 and probably still be in the winning lineup just because of how shallow the player pool is. So I like I said, I hate to be cheap and go with the highest price guy here, but he will easily be my highest owned small forward. Past him, Tobias Harris against Boston without Ben Simmons, probably an option here. Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, these are guys that are likely going to play 40 minutes for the Boston Celtics. And maybe you get some surprises down here. Joe Harris is somebody that could be really, really intriguing here as a probably the number 2 scorer behind Karis LeVert. Could he pop off for 25, 30 fantasy points? I think on this slate, you could probably settle for 4 to 5x value out of your small forward instead of pushing for that for that 6-7. And I do think if you get 34 minutes of Joe Harris, he has a chance for 30 fantasy points. So I probably would be looking at Joe Harris, but I think easily Kawhi Leonard's my highest owned small forward. And then let's go to power forward, which is nearly as bad and shallow. So again, I gotta lean to Kristaps Porzingis, but I feel less bad about this pick because Porzingis is 8,600. Like, what are we doing here, FanDuel? How do you not just click Porzingis and move along? Porzingis in his last 10 games against the Los Angeles Clippers has been a point per minute or greater in just about every performance with the Dallas Mavericks. 34.5 FanDuel points in 30 minutes, 26 and 27, 50 and 38. 38 to 40 minutes is likely his minute projection here. And it's just way too many minutes in the highest total game when you know him and Luka Doncic are going to be the handcuff to have. I just don't see how Porzingis isn't my highest owned power forward to maybe run back against Kawhi Leonard. Gonna have a lot of interest in that game. It's gonna be the highest total game, and there's a lot of concentrated usage there. And we'll be seeing a lot of lineups, especially in my own scripts that will have Luka, Paul George, Lou, Kawhi, Porzingis. Like that 5 is going to be a beautiful player grouping in my lineup scripting for the slate. So Porzingis would be easily my highest owned power forward. If I'm scrolling down a little bit more, maybe Michael Porter is one of those guys that people are tentative to play now that Jamal Murray's back and he's been kind of suppressing Porter's upside. But if Gary Harris and more importantly Will Barton are still out, Porter is somebody that can still be a point per minute plus. At 7K, could it be a sneaky shot at 40 fantasy points? He dropped almost 50 against Utah in his last outing. I'd probably be looking his way. Obviously, I wouldn't have tapered expectations. Al Horford, this is a spot for him to step up and have to play 30-plus minutes, 35 minutes, if they can get it out of him without Ben Simmons. Sure, we look at him for maybe 25 to 30 fantasy points, and then it gets really rough down here. Marcus Morris probably leads the the 4K guys in minutes, but that's not saying a whole lot, right? Wide range of outcomes for 30 minutes out of Marcus Morris, 19, 24, 26, 28. So because of the game total and whatnot, you probably take some stabs there, a veteran guy. And then how about Rodion Carew down here? 3,800 for him. Points per minute, it's been there. So maybe he surprises us against the Raptors. But easily going to be Kristaps Porzingis as my highest owned power forward. And then we go over to the center position. Again, look at these prices. 8,500 for Joel Embiid. I mean, you got to click that and you just got to run with it. I don't think FanDuel priced this slate to be tough on you guys. I think they want you guys to play whoever you want and make lineups that you feel will be fun to root for or fun to sweat. And I'm not against that, but it certainly takes a little less skill out of the equation when you can play whoever you want. So I just locked in Jamal Murray, Lou Williams, Kawhi Leonard, Kristaps Porzingis, Joel Embiid, and I still have over 5K per position left. And if I went and put in Luka just for the heck of it, I still have 4K, so I can still have enough wiggle room to make a pretty solid lineup. But Joel Embiid leads the pack for me in the center position. Will be my highest owned FanDuel center at 8,500. You know why, right? No Ben Simmons. If you look at his sample size this year without Ben Simmons, 663 minutes according to RotoWire, 37% usage rate, averaging 1.6 FanDuel point per minute in that time frame. That's just way too much potential against the Boston Celtics. Now the Celtics, I'm sure with Brad Stevens, they're going to key in on that fact and probably trap Joel Embiid as much as they can. But Joel Embiid is just one of those guys that I'm going to trust his ability, his usage, and his overall skill set to just contribute as much as he can. If you're getting 35 to 40 minutes out of Joel Embiid in a playoff game where he is the guy that he's responsible for this team's success, I'm gonna take a gamble at 8,500. Right? I think he'll be one of the highest owned players, but I really got no argument against him. And I can't really carve one out other than maybe Brad Stevens gets creative and kind of schemes him. But at 8,500, he's probably still going to hit value, right? Otherwise, at the center position, obviously Nikola Jokic is there, $100 more. A high floor, high peripheral getter. Jared Allen, I don't have a lot of interest in him because the Raptors do give up the fewest points in the paint, and Jared Allen's going to score all of his points in the paint. Montrezl Harrell's really intriguing to me. I mentioned that he's back. Him and Lou Williams worked that pick and roll really, really well. What would we expect minute-wise? Maybe not much since he didn't play during the bubble. But if he's back in the mix at 5,800, he's certainly a guy that could be a point per minute, go get you 25 to 35 fantasy points with a modest minute projection. He would also maybe eat away from some of Ivica Zubac's minutes, who has been super consistent with 24 minutes, just about giving you 30 fantasy points a game. But after that, there's really not anyone I'm dabbling with in the center spot. Maybe, probably not. I've literally won 15K from Enes Kanter against Joel Embiid before, so maybe in a deep tournament, something. I'll take some stabs at Kanter for his historic success for me. He once, I think, 2020'd against Joel Embiid. So maybe in a deep tournament, I have a Kanter line or two. But for the most part, these are looking like my highest owned players at each position. Embiid, Porzingis, Leonard, Lou Williams, Jamal Murray. What are you guys thinking? It's still kind of early. So things could change as news comes out as we get closer to lock on Monday. But what are you guys thinking about this FanDuel slate? Who do you think is going to be your highest owned players at any position? And am I off base with any of these guys? Do you disagree with some of these picks? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, help me out. Hit that thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. And if you got anything else for me, twitter.com/GundackerSports. I love you guys. Good luck. God bless. And go win some money.